Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to our first plenary session in Nali 2022. I'm Hayati and I'm also so pleased to be moderating the session this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, we are indeed honored to have with us a distinguished speaker and an expert in hybrid and blended learning environments. Our speaker this afternoon is Professor Dr. Ömer from the Middle East Technical University, Turkey. Thank you, Professor Ömer, for being here with us.
Good afternoon and good morning. So it's morning for us, afternoon for you. Thank you, Professor Hayati. Thanks for inviting, and hello to everybody who are listening and who are in the session.
Thank you, Prof. Ömer. It's such a pleasure to meet you online.
The same here. It's very nice to be here and talking to the audience and being with you people.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to first share with you a little background on Professor Ömer. Professor Dr. Ömer received his PhD degree in the field of computer and instructional technologies at Middle East Technical University, METU. His PhD involves a study on the factors affecting hybrid learning environments. He carried out his postdoctoral research at the Department of Instructional Technology at Indiana University on the use of games and simulations in education, systemic change in education, and the worldwide impact of Cisco Computer Networks Academy. Professor Ömer was awarded the title of Associate Professor in 2013 and the title of Professor in 2019 at the METU CEIT department, where he still is a faculty. Now, between 2017 and 2018, Professor Ömer took part in research projects at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign related to creative computing and the use of Minecraft in education with a Fulbright Research Scholarship. He published several international articles and proceedings on hybrid and blended learning environments, computer networks and information security, mobile learning, technology supported learning environments, and spatial thinking skills, the use of technology for special education, and technology integration in education. Prof. Ömer currently works as the Rector's Advisor in charge of distance education, quality and strategy, library and documentation at METU. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are indeed elated and privileged to have with us Professor Ömer, who will be delivering the plenary on innovation in hybrid teaching and learning. Ladies and gentlemen, with no more ado, please welcome Professor Ömer.
Thank you so much, Professor Hayati. Thanks for those nice introduction. And let's start with the session then. So, first of all, I would like to share the content of today's presentation. I want to talk a little bit about digital transformation, move into distance learning, talk about hybrid learning, and I want to end the talk with the innovations that will affect hybrid learning and overall the educational process itself. For those who maybe do not know Turkey, I just want to point out where I am located and where Turkey is located. As you see, we are in the middle of the world. Of course, this depends on where you look at. I'm just joking. So it's located in between Asia and Europe. So we are just a country that has a part in Europe and that has a larger part in Asia. And what is famous for Turkey? Well, of course, if there are people in audience who have been in Turkey, you might know that we have baklava. It's a famous Turkish sweet. It's very nice, especially in the eastern part of Turkey. It's done great. If you make it to Turkey, I would strongly suggest that you taste it. And of course, we have the Turkish delight, the lokum. It's also nice, and you can find it all over Turkey. And there are so many other famous and nice food here, but these two are to mention because they are worldwide known. And where is Middle East Technical University? Middle East Technical University is in the middle of the country, in the capital of Ankara. It was established in 1956, and it's one of the finest universities in Turkey. Actually, we have a university entry exam, and most of our students are in the top 10% or even the top 1%, 1/100% of 3 million students who actually enter the exam. So we are working with bright students, and we have also so many international relations and international students as well. Let's move into the talk. Let's move into hybrid learning, technology enhanced learning, and so on. So it might appear to you that this is kind of unrelated, but believe me, it is related to the things that we are going to talk. I don't know how many of you have read the book The Metamorphosis of Franz Kafka. Metamorphosis is transformation, actually. It was published in 1915. It's the most famous Kafka's work, and the story begins when a traveling salesman, Gregor Samsa, wakes up to find himself transformed into a giant insect. So metaphorically and analogically, I find this situation quite similar to cases where we need to use technology suddenly and abruptly without being prepared to it. Especially when we think about the COVID case, where we had to switch into distance learning quickly. It was like not being able to do the things that we were used to do before in our classes. So we actually woke up one day and could not do the things that we were used to do. We had some new structure, just like the change to being a giant insect. Of course, the insect here is just a change. I'm not referring to a change towards something bad or good. It was that we were not in the same situation as before, because we had to deal with many technological new things, like having new legs. We had to think about video conferencing system. We had to think about online exams. We had to think about creating new ways of communication with the students. So, by the way, I'm also suggesting, if you haven't read it yet, to read the book. Let's look why this change happened and how it happened. It happened slightly If we look at the milestones in technology industry for consumer technology, we can see the milestones and the different devices that came out after 1960s and which was integrated to our lives before we even knew it. Some of the things that I would like to mention, actually the game changers, to say it like that, was happening in 1975. What happened in 1975? The first personal computer, the Altair 8800, was announced. Before that, most of the computers were either for institutes, universities, and they were not personal computers. In 1975, with the introduction of microprocessors of Intel, things have changed, and now people could afford personal computers. And in 1981, IBM actually introduced the PC with the name of PC, IBM Personal Computer. And the change began there. And we had in 1991, we had the multimedia CD-ROMs. Some of you might remember. Of course, the younger ones might not remember. And we came up to smartphones, and things have changed towards more mobile, more takeaway, and more on time, in time information whenever it is needed and whatever it is. So uninterrupted information flow is now the case, and we need to use it also as something that can promote our learning. These are some interesting research for those who are interested in how elderlies are facing this change of technology. This is interesting. How do grandparents connect to their grandchildren? Interesting study. So 46% of them use their telephone, 28% is texting them, video chat, 24% is video chatting, and 18% is using Facebook. And here you see some elderly woman using a virtual reality headset and trying to shape up their driving skills. So this is for emerging assistive technologies for seniors, so that they can safely, in a safe environment, make activities that can enhance their motor skills while being in a safe environment. So what is digital transformation? If you go into digital transformation, you will find hundreds and even thousands of books. Where to start and which ones to read? And what does it tell? Digital transformation is an interesting issue because we have to go into the term digital here. What does digital mean? Digital means simply, there are so many definitions, but my definition is simply means number-based. So it's based on numbers. All information can be turned into numbers, into digits, and they can be stored into some form of digital media. The form of digital media can be either electronic, optical, or magnetic. It doesn't make any difference because they can be used interchangeably. But at the end of the day, the digital transformation is about using the data that is stored in one of these forms for making decisions. This is how digital transformation is described by Gregory Weil. So in the middle of the process, we have the use of digital technologies. And the use of digital technologies can be in terms of social, mobile, analytics, Internet of Things, in platforms or ecosystems, which is used as a fuel for disruptions like consumer behavior and expectations, competitive landscape, and availability of data, which is triggering strategic responses, digital business strategy, and digital transformation strategy, which relies on the use of digital technology. So we have a kind of a loop here. But the use of digital technologies, on the other hand, enable change in value creation paths, which is quite important here because the digital transformation soul, the digital transformation spirit is actually on this part. So change in value creation paths, the value propositions, value networks, digital channels, agility and ambidexterity are becoming the core of the change. So the change is quite important. And the change is affected by structural change and organizational barriers. Organizational barriers are inertia and resistance. Inertia is the tendency to stay still. So an organization might prefer, or even people might prefer, to stay still and not go on for any change. Resistance, on the other hand, is opposing force towards the change. So we can face both of them in the process of change in value. The structural change is about the organizational structure. Now we have different requirements in organizations. So the organizational structure has changed as well. And the organizational culture, the leadership, employee roles and skills. And the change in value creation and paths generate negative and positive impacts. The negative impact is the security, and one of the negative impact is about security and privacy. In digital world, nothing can be hidden. So once it is digital, it will create a digital footprint, which can be always traced back and which can be always found and published, released, or whatsoever. But we have the security and privacy issues. That's why it is important to keep the digital footprints as clear as possible. And it also generates positive impacts like operational efficiency, organizational performance, industry and society improvements. So this is overall the structure of digital transformation, which actually gives us a great view of what is happening with the change in the technologies, with the change in the society. But what is the outcome of this transformation? What is the outcome of digital transformation? By the way, I'm sorry for this typo. It should be a G, but I will change it after the presentation. So there are new services in the digital transformation world. There are new services like we can now make a medical visit to our doctor online. Especially thinking about the COVID case, it might be very helpful to stay in house and just make a call to your doc and talk about the issues that you are facing and try to understand what the problem might be, what the health problem might be. And of course, we have also the teamwork and collaborative working possibilities, opportunities, and a new trend that we have faced suddenly during the COVID was working at home. I don't know how many of you have faced this situation, but for those who had kids, especially women, have had a higher impact from the working at home part, because now they were at home, the children were at home, and there were things to do at home. Of course, the fathers were also affected, but especially as far as I have observed, women were more affected from that situation. And some new skills are required in terms of software usage. And here are some software and technical tools that are preferred by people mostly. This is from June 2020, but these things do not change very quickly, and they are still alike. So we have the top graphic design editing tool, the top mailing client, most popular web browser, top user interface design tool, top illustration design tool, top spreadsheet tool, the top presentation program, top communication tool, most popular file sharing, top project management tool, top programming language, and top visual effects software. So these are the most preferred software and that people were using nowadays or during the last 2 years. So the digital transformation in education is now becoming important, and this is how it is described. Strategy as well as change to an organization, including its structure, so the educational organization, process, all the educational processes like teaching, learning, and culture, the environment that we create and the norms that we apply to students and teachers are required to yield the capability to generate new paths for value creation. And it is described as, the digital transformation is described as a process that aims to improve an entity by triggering significant change to its properties through a combination of information, computing, communication, and connectivity technologies. I would strongly suggest to read the whole article, which you can find at this link. Digital transformation brings also transformation in higher education. So transforming universities with distance education. There are books about them, and one of them that I can recommend is the one by Mark Nichols. Transforming Universities with Digital Distance Education is a nice book that I would like to suggest. And it is describing how the future of formal learning is going to be shaped. It's a book that you might enjoy to read and that can help you to understand how this digital change is going to affect the digital distance education. So distance learning or distance education requires some important emphasis on the application. So while applying distance learning, there are things that needs to be considered, and from time to time, those things also might be the reason for either high quality or lower quality instructional processes. So one of the main requirements of applying distance learning is the requirement to track time and resources. So time and resource tracking becomes quite important, because in distance learning, since the learner and the instructor are geographically in different places, the flow of things in a synchronous way might be problematic from time to time. So the deadlines, the tools to communicate, the environment to deliver the content should be carefully selected, and the time and resource tracking should be done carefully and with quite care. Quality and strategic objectives should be set for distance learning. So what are the expectations? What kind of outputs do we expect from this distance learning process, from these online courses? And since we are going to deal with technology, we should expect technology-based problems all the time. Murphy is doing extra time if it comes to technology use, especially technology in class, technology as in e-learning. So we should be keeping an eye on technology-based problems and provide troubleshooting solutions. Greater empathy and understanding is also needed. We should not forget that we are in digital environment, that we are doing digital communication. Netiquette, I don't know if you have heard about that. It's the politeness rules in online environments. Netiquette should be taken into consideration, especially in written communication. And online exams are one of the major issues that should be thought about, especially when it comes to asynchronous online exams. They should be planned carefully, and maybe some extra tools should be used to create secure environments. Activities required to learn by doing. Activities are required to create learn by doing. So we need to think about extra activities if there are anything that needs learning by doing. And suitability of communication method should be also taken into consideration, whether you want to do feedback, whether you want to apply a feedback system that creates instant feedback or latent feedback. You need to think about the tools that you have to create student content and student-teacher communication. So what are the requirements for e-learning environment? This is all based on experience in distance education. I'm also the lead of the Distance Education Center in Middle East Technical University, and we are applying some surveys every 6 months, and from the findings of the survey, I can find out that the main requirements of an e-learning environment are can be listed as this list. So one of the things that we need to think about is the infrastructure requirement. So what is referred as infrastructure requirement is the hardware, the computer, phone, webcam, etc., and of course the internet access. Another thing to consider is the software, the learning management system, the video conferencing software, media server, and the e-exam software that you want to apply for online exams. And there are also physical requirements. Even in e-learning, we have physical requirements like a quiet room, place, and an environment for studying. When you think about everybody at home during the COVID, this might be a serious issue. If you are living in a crowded house, finding a quiet room, place to study and to attend the classes could be a challenge. And of course, we need some human resources in terms of e-learning requirement. I don't know if you have read the news about this person. He is a professor teaching photography at the age of 91, and he is teaching from home using e-learning and computer as a teaching environment. So it's never too old or too late to teach online, as you might see here, and he's quite successful in teaching it. So, but one of the things that we need to make sure is, in terms of human resources, we need IT literacy in instructors and students. They should know how to use the tools, the software, and the hardware. Another thing that we need for e-learning requirement is the knowledge and skills about online course tools and methods, like different LMS structures, like different video conferencing tools, like different methods to apply for online teaching, like maybe using online surveys or some tools to create collaboration between students and cooperation between students so that they can work together. And we also need techno-pedagogical competence. In techno-pedagogical competence, I mean a teacher, an instructor of a field should know what tools and what software, hardware can be used for teaching a specific content, which tools to apply for teaching specific content in the specific field. For example, a math teacher should need to know which tools are best working for teaching geometry or for teaching fractions. An English teacher should know how to create written communication or verbal communication in a specific in a specific virtual environment by providing some tools suitable for students to talk in that environment. Another requirement is technical support. It is quite important for teachers and instructors to solve the technical problems quickly, as quick as possible, and sometimes they will need technical support. And it is always good to create an IT support unit, to have an IT support unit, so that they can quickly apply and get troubleshooting help for their tools, for their computer, for their environment, technology enhanced environment, whatever they plan to use. There will be problems. There will be always problems with technology use, and technical support becomes quite important. And motivation becomes important. Motivation in the instructors, motivation at the student. Both of them are quite important, because without motivation, it is quite hard to teach and learn. It is hard to teach if there is a lack of motivation to teach the content. It is hard to learn. It is hard to expect learning from students if there's no motivation, learning motivation. By motivation, I'm also considering intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, like the joy of learning, the joy, the fun of getting new information in a field that they are interested in, but also external motivation like grades, rules, and regulations. And of course, one of the things that I observe in my studies and we observe in the surveys is the requirement of self-regulation and self-regulatory skills. It is becoming quite important in e-learning. It is also important in face-to-face learning, but in e-learning, self-regulation and self-regulatory skills are the key for student success. The higher the self-regulation, the higher the self-regulatory skills, the better the flow of the course, the students' engagement with the course content, and academic achievement. Another thing is ethics. Since we are in an online environment, sometimes it's like we don't know whether we are talking to ourselves or to the students when doing a class, especially in lecturing. Sometimes I get the feeling that I'm talking to myself if they are very silent, and if they are not using their video cams and just sit and passively listen to the class. By the way, how many people are here? Can I see who are listening to the session? Is there a way to see? Maybe you can just type in hi or hello, so I can see in the chat environment. Okay, so ethics becomes important so that we expect the student to take responsibility, have self-regulation and self-regulatory skills, and follow the rules of ethics. But there are challenges. There are challenges in e-learning. What are the challenges? One of the things is the content quality. When we present the content, is the content suitable for an e-learning environment or hybrid learning environment? The content quality becomes quite important, because just giving the students something to read is not enough, is not the way that we should approach the case. Resource limitations, like having not enough internet access, having infrastructure problems, having no device to communicate, to access the courses, is another thing that we have to think about. But high dropout rates, you might have also, if you are teaching or if you are learning, you might have experienced this as well. The dropout rates are quite high in online course environment. So here are 6 dropout rates from Katobi. One of them is inappropriate course selection of the students, unclear course objectives, insufficient engagement with instructor, insufficient support from instructors and or the institute, lack of dedicated time for online course, and lack of motivation. But yes, high dropout rates are okay, thank you. Yeah, 50 viewers. Another thing to consider is technological burnouts. Maybe you might remember having too many Zoom or video conference in a day. The fatigue, the burnout that you have experienced about giving too many courses or attending too many online courses is a serious issue because it's really demanding and exhausting. Working the whole day in front of the camera, working the whole day in front of the monitor is really something to consider. So technological burnout could be quite important. Security issues, external cognitive load for using the tools rather than just focusing on the content, and the need of social interactions are the challenge to consider. I want to share some findings that from our surveys with the instructors and the students. Unfortunately, captions have not, and the captions are not here, but I have them here. The e-learning satisfaction of instructors here, 16.11 are dissatisfied. This is this part, not satisfied at all, not satisfied, and 20.88 do not have any negative or positive opinion on e-learning, and the majority, these two, 35 plus 19, so 54, approximately 54% stated that they are satisfied with e-learning, and 20.88 did not express a positive or negative opinion, as I said before. So you see, please focus on here, you see that 54 or approximately 55% of the instructors, which were approximately 250 who took the survey, were satisfied with the e-learning environment or the e-learning process. But look at the students. The students, 52% of the students are dissatisfied. So when we look at, compare it with the instructors, which are 16% only, now students seem to be more dissatisfied. And only 26% are satisfied with e-learning, and 19% did not want to give any positive or negative opinion. What I try to outline is instructors are more happy with e-learning than students. So which learning environment would you prefer was the question to instructors. And 16.60 said they would prefer completely face-to-face. And 33.60 said, I would prefer fully online. It's one of every 3 instructor prefers fully online environments, but the majority is preferring 48% is preferring hybrid courses, and the hybrid structure that they prefer is 10.53 wants to have majority of the courses should be face-to-face. 17% says it should be 50-50, and 19.43 says it should be the majority of the content should be online. When we compare it to the students, 40% of the students say they prefer completely face-to-face. They prefer completely face-to-face. That's a good question, Nurbiha. Let's talk about that in the question answer section. How can we keep the students' interest and motivation high? So 42% prefer hybrid. What I want to express is hybrid learning becomes the mid-ground and the common acceptance from the instructor side and the student side. So students also prefer hybrid learning environments. They do not prefer online learning environments as much as the instructors. You can see that they prefer 40% of them prefer the face-to-face environment. The commonality, the major output here is they prefer hybrid. Another question was about the online exams. We asked the students, did you cheat? And only 9% were brave to say that they cheated. And 78% said they haven't cheated. And 10% said, I don't want to answer. So it's an interesting finding here. I don't know the case over there, but at least around 10%, 9% agreed and said that they cheated. Then we changed the question and said, do you think that your friends cheated in the exams? And now the answer changed and they said, yes, 43% of my friends cheated in the exams. And 32% only said no, nobody has cheated. And now the answer, I don't want to answer, became 22%. So they did not want to turn it their friends. So we have some new opportunities that can come with the new environment. We have access to quality content. We have 24-hour, 7-day uninterrupted access to content, and international visibility and career opportunities are shining brightly as never before. So it can be a good opportunity to catch these employment opportunities all over the world for all of the students. Moving into hybrid learning, how do we define hybrid learning? The hybrid approach to instruction is basically composed of face-to-face components like in-class discussion, group work, lecture together with online components like contents, assignments, announcement, chat room, and other online materials. This is how I described it when I was doing my doctoral degree. And there are different terms that describe hybrid learning. They are used interchangeably in the literature. Sometimes we refer it as flipped learning, sometimes they are referred as mediated learning, sometimes they are referred as blended learning, web-enhanced instruction, and web-assisted instruction. There are some requirements, especially content requirements in hybrid learning. In terms of media and material type, we can now use, in terms of content presentation, text, audio, animation, simulation, video, virtual reality, and augmented reality. And in terms of hybrid teaching methods, we can apply synchronous or asynchronous methods like lecture, demonstration, discussion, virtual trips, gamification, skill teaching, project-based and flipped learning, etc. And this is how things have changed with traditional classroom and flipped classroom. Now let's move into the innovations for hybrid learning, the technologies that we can use to enhance hybrid learning. One of them is virtual reality. And virtual reality is especially very useful in the implementation of complex activities and procedures. And most important contribution is that it allows students to practice complex, challenging tasks over and over again in a safe environment. You see an example here. A medical student is applying a procedure, a medical procedure in a safe environment, and uses this virtual reality Google headset to apply the procedure before actually working with actual humans and patients. Virtual reality is important because it allowed students to acquire cognitive skills through experiential learning, such as participating in environments that are too logistically problematic to actually visit. So if we see, if we look at the cone of experience of Dale, we can see we are actually, we are here, like simulate model experience and lesson. Although we are close to do the real thing, but we are now in the cone of experience in a much larger 90% learning platform. Talking about virtual reality, we have to also shortly talk about the metaverse environment. The metaverse environment is an immersive environment where the student can feel as if they are actually in the specific context, in the specific situation. It's an immersive environment which can enhance student-student, student content, and student-teacher interaction. So it can be used for creating simulations, real-life or real-life-like situations, for bringing awareness, for creating virtual tours, for events and people. It can be used for interdisciplinary learning and for virtual campus activities, digital learning, and virtual 3D classrooms are all possible. Another innovation for hybrid learning is the augmented reality, or the application of augmented reality. ER presents an environment to the user that combines the real world with virtual objects. And it's not a very new technology now. It was available till the 1997. There are three characteristics of augmented reality. First, it combines real and virtual world. Second, it is interactive in real time. And third, it is registered in 3 dimension, where real and virtual objects are arranged accurately. This can be a new method for hybrid learning, where you can give students some activities where they have to go around and check virtual virtual environments, virtual tools. Actually, we applied it for teaching math to elementary students and to kindergarten students, and it worked quite well with them. Another innovation for hybrid learning is the virtual laboratory. Virtual laboratories can be grouped into two. Actually, we have the remote laboratories. Remote laboratories are a little bit different than virtual laboratories. Remote laboratories are using remote control system to do the activity, to do the laboratory from a distance, while virtual laboratories are simulations of traditional laboratory settings and provide objects that are virtual representations of real objects used in real laboratory environments. And virtual laboratories provide students and faculty with the laboratory environment without time or space restrictions and offer the opportunity to experiment whenever and wherever they want. In real or physical laboratories, there is a schedule that is strictly organized and students have limited time to carry out experiments. So if we need to shift some of the activities into online environment in hybrid learning, virtual laboratories create us an opportunity to do the laboratory at least before they come into the actual laboratory. It will be a simulation, but in terms of understanding what kind of procedures to carry out and what is happening in the laboratory during the experiment, it might be very helpful for students to do the virtual laboratory before the activity, actual activity in the actual lab environment. Okay, this is the end of my presentation, and thanks for listening. And if you have questions or comments, I would be happy to answer them or happy to listen to them. Professor Hayati, thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Ömer, for such an insightful and delightful sharing. Yeah, delighting us from baklava and lokum to the metamorphosis and the survey. The results or your findings from the survey on e-learning. It was very, very interesting. Yeah, to see that students perhaps lesser happier with the e-learning process. Yeah, but that's very interesting. I think it's something that we can also replicate here. We will try to do that kind of survey as well. Thank you so much for your sharing. Perhaps now we can go, because I see a number of questions. Yeah, so our viewers are very interested to hear your views and opinion. So maybe we can go to Dr. Norbiha's question. She has got 2 questions for you, right?
Sure.
So the first question is on ethics and integrity of teaching and learning online. So she would like to know, what would be your suggestions to uphold ethics and integrity of teaching and learning online? So Prof. Ömer, the first question from Dr. Biha.
Thank you, Dr. Norbiha. That's a great question, because that's one of the fields that is quite hard to manage in online and hybrid teaching, because we are trying to teach young people or we are trying to teaching adult people, and we expect them to act according to the ethics and to act with self-regulation and responsibility. But sometimes we see some unethical behaviors. That's one of the things that we experience, although we don't want to. So what should we do? I think there are two methods, there are two approaches that we can apply here. One of them is using tools. There are so many artificial intelligence tools to detect especially unethical behavior in exams. Like if there's an attempt to cheat, it can observe from the behavior, from the behavioral pattern of the learner, of the student, whether there is an attempt and unusual behavior on the learner side that could be a red flag and that could be considered as check the student kind of a warning, so that maybe the camera can be active and we can just observe what the student is doing. That's an external tool, but everything it relies in the internal side. I think we have to talk and we have to create honor codes. If you are a METU student, if you are a UTM student, you need to be in the community of UTM or in the community of METU. You need to act honorably, and the code of ethics should be in each class, in each session, should be reminded, and that we expect everybody to act according to the ethical rules, because in the community of UTM or METU or whichever university it is, we expect everybody to act responsibly. So if I come back to your question, one of the two tools is to increase the tools of control. Second, work on or focus on the requirements of ethics and provide the ethical codes and make sure the students have an understanding of why it is important and that they can internally accept it as a behavioral requirement. That's two suggestions on my side. There might be some other suggestions, I don't know, but that's what I observe.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Ömer. I truly agree with you, especially on instilling values. Yeah, it's important to instill values in our students so that they understand that there is no negotiation with academic integrity. Yeah, so yes, so agree with you. So that we, lecturers instill values in students on academic integrity. But further to Dr. Norbiha's question on the tools of control that you mentioned, could you share with us in METU, do you use or do you implement any e-proctoring system? Maybe you could share with us?
We suggest, generally we do not require from our instructors, but we suggest some tools. One of the tools is using the external cameras and smartphone combination system. Like I don't have a picture yet, but we are also using the Safe browser integrated to our Moodle system. So doing the exams over the Safe exam browser, and also putting creating a video conference connection, putting the smartphone camera on an angle where the monitor and the student can be seen. So using a dual system, the LMS Safe exam browser for controlling the actions the intentions, possible intentions to shift to other software, and also making sure from the background view that the monitor is only in the exam site and always on the exam site, looking at the questions but nothing else. But can there be any cheating methods for that? Well, as I said, our students are from the top 1%.
So they're very creative and innovative.
Very, very. I mean, unexpectedly. Uh, so, can they get away with it? Well, I don't know. I hope not. But yes, we have this structure of having a background cam and the safe exam browser for the exams.
All right,
Some
thank you.
universities have used mirrors, like
Oh,
they
okay.
they require to put a mirror on the back, and you have to turn it on the webcam of your computer, and it should be also showing the mirror, so that the mirror is reflecting the screen, so that they can make sure that the student is not using any other environment, any digital resource. But that has also some problems. You cannot control the whole room, even in the smartphone case.
What about the commercially available e-proctoring systems? There are many commercially available, but you have to subscribe to them, and it's a bit
Yes,
costly. What do you think of those?
yeah, we don't want to create some extra cost to students or to the university with those. They are quite expensive tools. Some of them are based on artificial intelligence, and I think they might be helpful because they are watching out the patterns, like how fast they use the keyboard or what the motions
Suspicious
are.
behaviors.
Yeah. If they wait too long, or if they are writing too fast,
Yeah.
or if they write in a different matter, like using different sentence structures, the software can detect it and create a red flag for that portion. I would suggest to use them if they are affordable. They can be used, but if not, controlled online exams seems to be the best solution. What I mean by controlled online exams means create online exam rooms.
Okay.
The exam can be still online, but in a controlled environment where you have cameras or real actual people, research assistants, instructors who can control the room. This will help for quickly grading the exams and taking the load of the instructor of grading. And besides, the students will learn quickly the grade or the performance in the exam.
Right. So a control environment, exam environment, yeah?
Yeah, controlled exam environment, but still online exams.
Still
So
online exam.
a hybrid environment, like having the online exam, but having it in a controlled environment, like a laboratory, a
Yep.
controlled computer laboratory.
Wow, that's a very good suggestion, Prof. Ömer. Now I'm going back to Dr. Nobiha's second question. She wants to know how do you maintain students' interest during this online learning? How do you maintain students' interest and motivation? Because you mentioned motivation as one of an important factor. So
Yes.
how do we maintain students' interest and motivation in online learning, Prof?
Well, that's again a great point. Dr. Nubiha is just putting the nail on the right spot. because it's hard. It's really hard to keep the students always interested and motivated. So some interaction is needed. Maybe some online games. Gamification might be a solution, or some interesting content that they might be looking at. Giving breaks, because it's really hard to listen all the time, especially lecturing. Selecting methods that do not rely on lecturing. I know this is hard to do, especially for directed learning, especially if you teach something like a technical issue thing that the student does not know anything about. It's easy to say, do not apply directed learning, but it's hard to apply, because you have to build it step by step, and you have to provide also information, knowledge to students. So to be realistic, work on your presentation, work on your lecture, put some interesting content in. Maybe you can use the method that was suggested, like creating some content that can gain the attention, that the Brunner's suggestions of gain attention, beginning the class with gaining attention. So why not putting some interesting content, and also the rationale in each class. The rationale, it becomes quite important for students. If they do not feel the rationale, the significance for learning that content, it is very hard for them to keep up with listening to it. Why do they need to learn it, and why is it important in terms of the course and in terms of their overall career plan? Why? Why should they be interested? Why should they be motivated? So we need to give some form of internal motivation, suggestions that they can take from. This is important because you are going to use it here and there. This is important because you are going to build that information into this one. This is important because it is used and applied in this area of your field. So providing rationale, providing interesting content, using interesting materials, creating interaction, using maybe some mobile applications that can extend the in-class online session to out of class. I can give you an example about that that we have created. In our English teaching classes, there are 10 every week there is a requirement of teach 20 verbs. We created an app to take pictures about specific verbs, and the students were required to take pictures outside in their real life about the verbs that were assigned to them for that week, especially verbs like love, abstract, consume. So there were quite interesting things, like a few students took a picture of an old woman, and then an old woman for the word love. This doesn't make any sense in the first sight, but what they have written as an explanation was, this is my mother. This is the person I love the most. Now that makes a sense. Now they have internalized the content to their real life. So using mobile learning and as an extension of classes can be quite helpful for creating more interest and motivation into online sessions. Don't leave it to the class, to the online session. Take it out of the class. Extend the experience of students with content interaction.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Ömer. I absolutely agree with you that the faculty or the lecturers need to be creative and innovative as well, yeah, especially in the delivery, as you mentioned just now, and as well as in the content. Yeah. So, for example, you mentioned earlier on the delivery, we perhaps we can include, even though it's online, we can include interactive, active learning. Yeah, active learning activities. Yeah, would you say that? And for example, we can use gamification that you mentioned earlier. Yeah, and I'm very much intrigued when you say that, the rationale. We need to give them a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Why they exist in our class and why we exist in their life, perhaps. Yeah. So, your idea of going beyond the classroom, take the classroom out of the classroom, yeah, going beyond classroom. I truly, truly agree with that. So, I think that answers Dr. Bihar's question on how to increase the interest of the students as well as their motivation in online learning. Maybe one question from me, Prof. Ömer. You you define hybrid learning as the way I saw your definition. It's a combination of face-to-face, physical face-to-face, and online learning. And because you included flip classroom in there as well. Now,
Mhm.
I also have sort of a definite, not definition, a description of hybrid learning, such that it's a classroom where you have students in the class. Yeah, you have a few students in the class, physical, face to face with you, but at the same time, you have students online in a
Mhm.
virtual environment. So, could that be a description of hybrid learning as well, Prof. Omer?
It can be, but if it's like the students in the class are always in the class, and the students in the online are always in the online, it will be face to face for those in the class, and it will be online for those who are. But if you leave it to the student, it can be it will be a good approach, because now they can select whether they want to attend online or from distance. It is a form of hybrid learning.
I
It can be a
see.
form of hybrid learning, but hybrid learning, the major difference, let me tell it this way: hybrid learning is not just a blend of delivery methods. Hybrid learning is the branding of also teaching methods according to the requirement of the course content. So if the course content requires that the student need to do some procedural activities uh, and do some practice, then you need to create that environment for the student, and you have to create activities, teaching activities, learning activities in a blended way, so that they can be prepared maybe online, they can read the manual, they can maybe use a simulation to before coming to the class, and then they do it actually in the class. So it's not just a blend of delivery method, it's also a blend or a hybrid approach of teaching method. In your suggestion, where the student is in the class, some of them are in the class, but it is also broadcasted for students who are not in the class.
Mhm.
If you leave the choice to the student, and if you create some teaching approach that are suitable for the content, like laboratory activities, it can be considered as a hybrid approach. But it all depends. It all depends on what the content is and um, what the content best fits in terms of techno-pedagogical choice of tool selection and activity selection and teaching approach selection. I
All right.
hope I can answer it.
Yes, yes, definitely. Thank you for enlightening us on that. One more question from me is that in METU, in METU, have you all developed any virtual laboratories?
Yes, we did. We have virtual laboratories, and
Okay.
actually, one of my students worked on it. We have a higher council of the Council of Higher Education, and they have
Mm-hmm.
created a virtual laboratory environment for all universities for introductory physics and chemistry. And she
Oh.
worked on the efficiency of those labs.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there were some, of course, were some problems, but yes, they were used by students, and they cannot replace actual laboratories. I would
Mm-hmm.
like to point out this: they cannot replace act, actual laboratories, but they can be very useful for preparing, understanding the procedure, understanding the outcomes, understanding the experiment before actually doing the laboratory. So,
Uh-huh. So
so
these are the prerequisites of a lab work.
they can be used as a prerequisite to do before coming to the actual laboratory, so that they can know what procedure they need to follow and how to interpret the results, how to interpret their observations in the laboratory. They are very helpful in that way, but they cannot replace. But virtual laboratories sometimes is mixed with remote laboratories. Virtual laboratories are not remote laboratories. Remote laboratories are actual laboratories that you can do from remote. Okay, but virtual laboratories are simulations. They are not real. They are graphics, animations, simulations. Sometimes they can be even VR, AR, but they are just images and 3D graphics models that they work at the background, where the students work at the background with. So they can be quite helpful in preparing the student, but they cannot replace actual laboratories.
Right. Thank you so much, Prof. Omer. We've learned so much from you. We've learned a lot from you this afternoon. Thank you so much for sharing on the digital transformation, on distance learning, and on hybrid learning. And we love to learn more from you. So thank you very much, Prof. Omer, for being with us this afternoon, for enlightening us on so many aspects of digital learning and digital transformation. I wish we have more time to have this conversation with you. Perhaps we will meet again in another venue. Thank you so much again from all of us to you, and perhaps your last words to the viewers. We have many viewers here, almost 70 viewers already.
Oh,
So
great.
your last words, Prof. Omer.
I would like to thank to all of them for coming to this talk and listening to it. I hope it was fruitful for them, and they could find some content that they can use in their area of teaching. And I would also like to thank you, Professor Hayati, for inviting me. And I would like to thank all people that have organized Nelly 2022. This is a great effort for all people who just put their effort into this. And it was an honor to meet with you and to talk to this audience. I also hope to work together in the future for enhancing technology-enhanced learning environments and creating new opportunities for our students and learners that can work in a better way to support their learning, to support their career achievements, and etc. So I would like to thank everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. Thanks for inviting. I hope it was an interesting talk to you. It was an interesting talk for me. I hope to see you all in the future.
Thank you, Prof. Ömer. The pleasure is all ours. And we are privileged to have you with us this afternoon for sharing your wisdom. So thank you so very much from all of us in Malaysia. Thank you so much, Prof. Right, and to all our participants, thank you for being here. It's been more than an hour, but I feel that it's such a short time. I wish we had more time. But anyway, I would like to invite all of you to be with us again in our keynote session tomorrow at 9 a.m. on learning innovation in the new digital era. We have Associate Professor Dr. Jarod Wan from the King Mongkut's Institute of Technology, Thailand. Yeah, so we will have that keynote tomorrow. So once again, I would like to thank Prof. Ömer and all of you who has joined us for this whole day, Nali 2022. It has been a very exciting day, from the flooding to the protests in Turkey. So it has been an exciting day. Thank you so very much for joining us. Good evening. Enjoy the rest of the day. Yeah, and I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. Bye.